When hinges creaks in doorless chambers, whenever the air is deadly still, welcome, foolish mortal, to Darkest Star ASMR and Entertainment. Hello, and welcome to Darkest Star ASMR and Entertainment. Today's video is going to be something, game related, but I'm doing it ASMR style. So I play a lot of games. As a matter of fact, it's one of the few things that I do in my spare time, which I have a lot of. So I play a lot of games. And recently I've been playing a lot of PlayStation 3. And something hit me because I grew up with the PlayStation 1, PSX, the original one, and I loved the controller. And then something happened when I got my first Xbox. The analog placement was much more to my liking on the Xbox. But recently, as I said, I played a lot of PlayStation 3, and I kind of fell in love with the controller again. I don't know what that bleep was. It was my phone or something. Never mind. So I thought about doing a little video. Which of the recently modern consoles, I'm not talking about the NES or the Sega Nomad, was that the name? The first Master System. Because the first Nintendo controller were just a square little brick, not bigger than this, and it wasn't really that comfortable to hold on to. But it was in the childhood stage of gaming, so I also have an Atari VCS, I think it's just one button and a stick, which is highly it's hardly usable to play with, it's so inaccurate and shit like that. So I thought, let's go from the Nintendo 64 generation, the 64-bit. So I have a lot of controllers here. And the first one that I'm actually going to address is the Nintendo 64 controller. And I don't know what to say about this one. I mean, it did its job, I guess, but this little analog stick, or whatever you want to call it, up here, it's really not the best precision, man. And I was recently trying to play GoldenEye 007 on my Nintendo 64, and the control just sucked so bad. And I'm not afraid to say it, It ended up that I had like 2 Nintendo 64 controllers, one in each hand. So I kind of had a dual stick thing. I walked with this one and aimed with the other. But overall, I don't know. It's something with it that doesn't feel right in the hand, It's not the best controller in my opinion. If you love it, that's fine, but I'm not that fond of it. Next up we have a console that I loved, and I was so sad when they stopped making them and making games. That's Sega's Dreamcast. And you can see here there are slots for the memory cards or a rumble function. And this one is getting closer to what we can say is a modern controller, because you have the analog stick here. Thing is that I played a lot of Quake 3 Arena on my Dreamcast, and as you might imagine, you walked with this, but you looked around with this, so it was pretty damn awkward. Other than that, it's a little bit better than the Nintendo 64 if you ask me. You have the triggers here, only 2. You have A, X, Y, B, exactly as they have it on the Xbox controller actually. And you could play some mini games on this little thing here, but I don't know, might not have been the best controller either actually. Depends a little bit on what game you were playing. On the other hand, if you were like playing role-playing games or platformers, it worked pretty well. But for first-person shooters and stuff like that, it's a nightmare to use. So yeah. And now we are going to take a look at PlayStation 2. The PS2, one of my favorite consoles of all time. And yeah, this is it. As you can see, it hasn't changed that much on the newer consoles from PlayStation, like PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 4. I think 5 looks a little bit different, but and this one just sits well in your hands. It has the double triggers on each side. It has navigation here and double analog sticks, of course, and a rumble function. And you have X, square, circle, and triangle. Now I have a PlayStation 1 controller here somewhere, but I couldn't find it. This video was pretty, well, quickly put together. I didn't have anything else to do actually. But the regular original PlayStation controller didn't have any analog sticks, so you were stuck with this directional cross and just the buttons, which, as you can imagine, made first-person shooting pretty damn awkward. But this is the PlayStation 2 controller, and at the time I think it was a revolutionary controller. I love it, really do. And I also want to bring up another one that I don't have here, because I lended my GameCube. I still have the machine, but I lended out my controller and some games to my sister. And that was like 15 years ago, and she kind of lost it, and I never play on my GameCube. So when she said she was going to find it, I was just, yeah, okay, do it whenever you can. And she kind of never did. So I actually have some GameCube games I can see here. Star Wars The Clone Wars, Star Wars Jedi Outcast, Star Wars Rogue Squadron, Star Wars Bounty Hunter, and Harvest Moon for the GameCube. Actually, I really want to play Harvest Moon. I think that was good for a fun game. So I'm actually going to try and pick up a GameCube controller somewhere. Okay, now we are at Xbox. The first Xbox. Now, I'm so sad because I sold my first Xbox, and that had the controller that was known as the Duke, much like me. And it was huge, and I have pretty big hands, so for me it was an excellent controller. I loved the Duke, and it was chunky, and you like felt you really had a big piece of modern console equipment in your hands. But then they, I don't know, people don't have that big hands, I guess, so they made this Xbox controller small. And it doesn't have any shoulder buttons, it just has these two. You do have a white and a black one here. That pretty much, on the modern Xbox controllers, these are pretty much the shoulder buttons that you have, R1 and L2. R1, L1, or I don't know, the little ones. And it doesn't, you can't press the X. It doesn't do anything. So yeah, this is and the start and select button is over here on this side. But when I got this and I played Halo for the first time, I felt that this was the controller that was really made for me. I had much more control. I don't know why. It just feels better when you have one of the sticks a bit higher. You know, I felt like handicapped when I used the PlayStation controller. But this was the Xbox original controller. And now, well, what can I say? This is the Xbox 360 controller. And it's a more ergonomically shaped version of the first Xbox controller. I think it's, if you can see, it's less. It have more shapes than this one. And this one is 100% the absolute best controller that I know. Nothing beats this one. You have the... Now I can actually check. Right bumper and left bumper, of course. And you have these ones here. And you can connect it with a cable here. And you also have for the headset down here. And select and start have moved up here. I'm just making sure I'm not starting my Xbox 360. And yeah, the home button. You can press to start the controller, or like when you have started it, you can hold it and turn off the console. One of the best controllers out there. Which brings me to the Xbox One. This is the Xbox One. And it's not as good looking as the 361, I think. You can see them side by side there. You still have the same functions. You have the left and right bumper. You have the triggers. And you don't... Yeah, you have home and the start, or whatever you want to call it. Can't say much about this one. It's pretty much identical to the 360 controller, except some of the buttons, like the home button, is up here instead of in the middle. Still a damn decent... Fuck, I hate my life. Still a pretty decent controller. That just made me weird. Not a decent, a perfect controller. I'm sorry, man. I am... yeah. Perfect controller. Which brings me to the last one of the bunch, which is the PlayStation 3 DualShock 6-axis rumble controller. Now, this one is also amazing. It's in second place of my absolute favorite controllers for the consoles. The only thing I can say about this one is that the trigger buttons are a little bit weird. It feels like my fingers will slide off them sometimes. But other than that, and now you also have this PlayStation did like Xbox, you can start the console and turn it off. And if I have to say something, it is that the battery lasts a whole lot longer on this than on the Xbox 360. Because if we're fair, the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 are the same. Xbox One is a later generation and the last I will probably ever get. Because, and this is a topic for another time, but I really think that game has gone down the deep end. It's just online service games, remakes of games that I've already played. You know, I'm not that interested in playing a game I played 20 times just because it got the new code of paint on it. Like, I'm playing Final Fantasy 13 at the moment. And I've read many comments online when I've been reading reviews for the game that's like, oh, I wish they could remake it for the PlayStation 5 or whatever. Why? It's perfect just the way it is. You know, from when I pop in the disc in my PlayStation 3, it takes approximately 2 minutes if I'm fumbling to start it up and be into the game. If I put a game in my Xbox One, oh my god, first it has to connect to the internet, and that can take a while if you have, depending on which internet you have. After it has done that, you have to be signed in, and then you can start the game, and it takes forever, and if you're unlucky, you need a big fucking update. And on my Xbox 360, I think I have about 50 live arcade games and saves for at least 40 games, and I still have memory left. On my Xbox One I have like 5 games and it's out of memory because you have to install all the games these days. You buy a disc and you put it into your Xbox or whatever, and it has to download the fucking game, and it takes up to an hour if you have a bad internet or bad, I don't know, depends on how big the game is. So instead of just coming home from the store with your newly bought game and just pop it in and enjoy it, no, you have to wait and install it, and if you're really unlucky, then you have to install a patch that's possibly twice as big as the game. So no, I'm over modern games. They suck ass. I'm sorry to say. But fortunately, there are so many hidden gems out there that are ready to be discovered. Like, I got a Lord of the Rings War in the North for my PS3. I've seen the game, I saw the game when it came out, but I was like, there was so many other games that I played, so I never got around playing it. But now I have, and it's an amazing game, and it's not especially expensive. So yeah, that was my little ASMR video about controllers. And yeah, it might be a random video, but I didn't have anything else to do. So, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please press the little like button down there, and please subscribe if you haven't, because it means a lot to me. And yeah, I will see you in the next video, and I wish you a pleasant evening wherever you are in this big world. Good night and goodbye, or whatever. Come to me, don't be afraid. You will do as I say.